Tammy and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. We have a few versions of the video going out, but we consider you our closest friends and ministry partners. So thank you for your friendship and commitment to the cause of Christ and to us. It's been 17 years since we moved to California to plant Impact Community Church, and we grew from 6 people in our living room to our highest monthly average of 1,000. We've seen 844 baptisms since we launched publicly, which is over 1 baptism a week every week since we got here. I'm thrilled that God has changed the thousands of lives that He has, and the churches that have been planted as well. We significantly helped launch 3 churches in California and been a small part of several others in California as well. We've planted about 1,000 churches around the world and even dug a water well and built a building in Nigeria that was used as a church, medical clinic, and a school. But all good things have a timeline, and our timeline at Impact is done. Tammy and I are so excited to be starting a new work, and we wanted you to know what's going on and to have a non-pressured chance to be a part of the ministry. Now, as an entrepreneur and a church planter at heart, I'm really a pastorpreneur, so this next phase of my life needed to engage both parts of the way that God wired me. And so thanks to Impact's leadership, I had about 6 months to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. Well, knowing that church planting is statistically the #1 way to reach more people for Christ, and knowing that almost 4,000 churches close every year and typically less than 4,000 churches are started, and knowing that the local church is the hope of the world, it's God's plan A and there is no plan B, there were 2 things I specifically wanted to accomplish. One was get American church plants to be self-sustaining in 6 to 12 months, and then to get them to multiply instead of to add. So after a ton of research and coaching and praying and counseling and workshops and conferences, we're embracing our new calling. 612planting.com. There are currently 2 main avenues of church planting that we're engaging in. First of all, we'll help get churches launched in places where church planting organizations wouldn't dare go. Places where it's just not sustainable to have a church with a full-time vocational pastor leading it. Maybe it's a small town in a poorer area of the country, or maybe an inner city or urban community that even if they had 200 people, they couldn't sustain the church and its pastor. So we'll come alongside in a sort of franchise model of consulting to work with the pastor who has a clear called people group, a city, and we'll help him launch a discount grocery store where prices are about half of Walmart's prices. The planter would then build relationships while meeting physical needs with groceries and prayer needs that are spiritual. Those relationships then would turn into whatever kind of church God has on the planter's heart. The beauty of this is the planter's salary is covered in less than 6 to 12 months with the grocery store. And once the church is actually formed and people are tithing enough to cover part or all of the pastor's salary, then he can begin to move from a grocer to a pastor. But he's doing ministry from day one with the people of that community that he's called to. That's one side of 612 planting, to plant bivocational churches that are self-sustaining in 6 to 12 months in areas where typical church planting doesn't make sense. The other side of 612 planting involves a movement of simple churches, house churches, missional communities, full of disciples who make disciples, which creates a multiplying movement of churches instead of the addition of churches. Now, to accomplish this, we're starting an internet community called YOUCHOOSE.COMMUNITY. That should be live in November, where you choose when, where, how, and with whom you do church, you do community, you do life. And it's on this website that we'll try to gather a large community of followers who receive these 2 to 4 minute mini messages from the Bible that are hopefully funny, sarcastic, controversial, engaging, or otherwise culturally interesting, in order to generate more followers, interactions, likes, subscribers, and a loyal community. And once those people are connected, they're encouraged to take one of 2 tracks on the website, to choose Jesus and learn more about salvation, or to choose discipleship and learn about being a disciple who makes a disciple. These videos on both tracks will be a little longer, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and have a little more meat to them. With the ultimate goal in everything is getting these followers on our website to launch their own simple church under our direction and empowerment. So what's a simple church? Well, I'm glad you asked. A simple church is a family, a spiritual family with Christ in the center as King, that's a crown, who love God, love others, and make disciples. Loving God and loving others is the revealed will of God in the Old Testament. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself, to love others. That's the revealed will of God in the Old Testament. The New Testament, this is the Great Commission. This is where he says to go make disciples, baptizing them, teaching them everything that I've taught you. This is the revealed will of God in the New Testament. So we want to have this spiritual family that's carrying out the revealed will of God in the Old Testament, the revealed will of God in the New Testament, to love God, love others, and make disciples who make disciples. So the spiritual family, or simple church, has weekly gatherings that focus on three things: knowledge, application, and sharing. It's a three-legged stool, and so a distinguishing feature of YouChoose is that all three of these legs are equal in priority and in time given during each weekly gathering: application, knowledge, and sharing. We also have next steps for when people are ready. Accountability groups, choice groups, where we read 25 to 30 chapters a week, answer some brutal personal questions each week. It helps to grow us. The key to the whole thing is our discipleship mentality, which is duckling discipleship. As a mother duck leads all of her little ducklings, they follow along in single file behind. You've seen that before. And as a disciple, you only need to be one step ahead of those that you lead. And as long as you keep growing and taking one step at a time, you're leading in the discipleship process. It was Paul who said, "Follow my example as I follow the example of Christ." Christ is the mother duck, and we all follow along behind. And we'll take this mentality that every believer is a church planter. It's just a matter of time. Every time someone accepts Christ, they'll be told about the greater, and greatest blessing. It's a blessing that you accepted Christ and we're excited. It's a great blessing when you take that and you share Christ with someone else and they say yes to Jesus. It's an even greater blessing when you launch a simple church with those that you're influencing, your best friends and family. And it's the greatest blessing of all when you can help others launch simple churches as well, and you end up starting a network of churches. And what that does is instill in every new believer that they play a significant role in the multiplication movement, that we're expecting and counting on them to jump in and be a disciple who makes a disciple. Now, as of January 1st, 2017, I'm a full-time missionary raising all my outside salary benefits and ministry expenses, and I need to raise the majority of the budget for the first 2 years of our ministry. Now, the church we planted is backing us with startup funds and some monthly giving over the next couple years, as well as praying for us, and for that we are eternally grateful. But the shortfall comes out to be about $400,000 over the next 2 years. The need is grande, but our God is much greater. So what are we asking you, our closest friends and family and ministry partners? Well, we need as many of you as possible to support us in two ways. You know the first one's coming. Financially, to help us with the $400,000 need. That's over $16,000 a month over just the next 2 years. You can give at 612planting.com/online-giving. You can text to give at 805-724-6673. We're looking for monthly support, as well as maybe a one-time year-end gift or a tax return, or maybe a church taking a love offering. We don't want anyone feeling pressure, and I mean that with all my heart. I didn't want to be a fundraiser, but I'm finding real joy in the opportunity here, because I think we'll look back 5 to 10 years from now and think, wow, look what God has done with our investment. I think there will be tens of thousands of lives changed because of this. Another way to help is through prayer. We're looking for at least 612 people from our Facebook prayer team, these folks to dedicate 15 minutes a week without distraction to really lift Tammy and I up, as well as the ministry and all the people who need to meet Jesus through our ministry. We know this is where the real power is. So you can pay 3 minutes a day, 5 days a week, 5 minutes a day, 3 days a week, 1 day a week for 15 minutes, but just please consider devoting this time to covering us in our new ministry. You can join us on our prayer team at Facebook at bit.do/YouChoose. We are super excited about the future, and we're counting on many of you to join us, not to feel pressure, but to see the opportunity of what's in front of us. Our vision to plant at least 20 churches to start in the next couple of years, hopefully sooner. And then look out, that's when the multiplication takes off from there. Listen, there's no guarantees with an out-of-the-box idea like this. But we're already have a handful of possible plants all across the country, even Alaska. And we've been affirmed like crazy that this definitely needs to be tried. and I'm the guy to try. Will you join us? You can email me at barry@612planting.com. You can call me at 916-750-5453. You can get me at Facebook on facebook.com/barryonline. And as we mentioned, our prayer link, bit.do/YouChoose, and the text to give, which is on your screen. Regardless, I want to thank you for your time. We are so very appreciative, and I want you to please feel free to pass this on to someone else that you think might be interested. And God bless you as you prayerfully consider your financial and prayer support over the next 2 years.